2023 meeting in the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners. Note the presence of all three commissioners, and I will ask Mr. Mike Kehs to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to start my remarks this morning by acknowledging that it's Hispanic Heritage Month, which runs each year from September 15th and ends on October 15th. Observing this month allows us to celebrate the histories, cultures, and economic contributions of community members whose ancestors came here from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Central and South America. September 15th is significant since it is the anniversary of independence for Latin American countries Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. Mexico and Chile celebrate their independence days on September 16th and September 18th, respectively. Diversity is one of our country's and our county's greatest attributes. Over 6% of the county's total population is of Latino or Hispanic descent, and those numbers continue to grow. And we can't celebrate this month without acknowledging our important Hispanic and Latino community leaders such as Aclamo, Secate, and others who are partners in the community for eliminating barriers to equity, seeking social justice, and working for the greater prosperity of all our residents. So thank you all for helping to make Montgomery County such a great place for all of our residents. This week is the first National Week Without Driving, which runs from October 2nd to October 8th. The Disability and Mobility Initiative launched the first Week Without Driving in 2021 in Washington State to highlight the barriers that non-drivers experience in accessing parts of the community. This week is a great opportunity to highlight sustainable modes of transportation while also spotlighting equity for non-drivers, including people with disabilities who can't drive, challenges for low-income households who can't afford a car, and options for children and teens. Here in Montgomery County, we want to ensure that everyone in our community has access to everywhere. Our Complete Streets policy helps guide the county's investments in walking, bicycling, and transit, especially on county-owned roads and bridges. We support the Suburban Transit Network to provide low-cost shared ride services for county citizens in need. And we work with SEPTA through financial contributions and board oversight to advocate for improved services for our residents. We've also partnered with Berks and Chester counties to launch the Schuylkill River Passenger Rail Authority, which is working for the return of the passenger rail line from Philadelphia to Reading. And we're striving for further progress on sustainable transportation, such as working with stakeholders to increase the availability of electric vehicle chargers throughout the county. For those of you wishing to participate, I invite you to use any of our county-owned and maintained biking and walking trails, public transportation, or carpooling, even if it's not for the full week. Yesterday, I used SEPTA to commute to the office on the 90 bus route and went home on the 98 bus route. And I want to give a shout out to our COO, Lee Saltesiak, who was kind enough to give me a ride to a county event. So thank you, Lee. And with that, I'll turn it over to Commissioner Winder.
Great. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Ken. So first, I would like to acknowledge that October is Italian American Heritage and Culture Month. In the greater Philadelphia area, and particularly here in Norristown, Italian Americans were an integral part of our history. Starting in the mid-1800s, Italian immigrants flocked to Philadelphia, searching for economic opportunities. These immigrants were essential to creating the areas we know today. They built railroads, mined in quarries, expanded the textile industry, and played a significant role in the other construction and maintenance projects. They've also played an important role in building the local economy with small businesses and serving as an example for strong family values, values upon which our communities thrive. Norristown would not be the city it is today without the contributions of Italian immigrants and Italian Americans. This October, we can all celebrate Italian American Heritage and Culture Month by acknowledging the rich historical and cultural heritage of Italian Americans in our area and supporting their local businesses. I also want to remind everyone that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Other than skin cancer, breast cancer is the most common cancer among American women. 1 in 8 women in the U.S. will be diagnosed with breast cancer in their lifetime. According to the CDC, that translates to approximately 240,000 women who will get breast cancer and 42,000 will die from the disease. Though it is not as common, about 1 in every 100 breast cancer diagnoses are found in men. To think that out of all of our family members, friends, and coworkers, at least one of them will be diagnosed with the disease seems pretty scary. That's why prevention and detection are key, and I got my mammogram earlier this year. So put your health first. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. I encourage you all to talk to your doctor about whether it's time for a mammogram or other cancer screenings. Today, I also want to congratulate our Department of Public Safety. Their training campus was awarded a $75,000 grant as a part of the State Fire Commissioner's Training Center Grant Program. The funds will be used to make safety-related upgrades to the training campus's flammable, liquid, and gas training props that support our firefighter training programs. They were one of 6 projects who received an award out of 62 applicants. Congratulations again. Lastly, I want to acknowledge that today is World Teachers' Day. It commemorates the anniversary of the adoption of the 1966 United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization's recommendation concerning the status of teachers, which sets benchmarks regarding the rights and responsibilities of teachers and standards for their initial preparation and further education, recruitment, employment, and teaching and learning conditions. In this moment, I want to pay homage to my living 103-year-old grandmother who taught in Philadelphia schools, and my mother who also taught in the Philadelphia school system. They both represent 8 decades of service to our public schools. My grandmother was also awarded Pennsylvania State Teacher of the Year in 1972. I want to honor all educators around Montgomery County for their commitment to educating future generations. I am hoping you will join me in ensuring that teaching is transformed into a more attractive, respected, valued, and trusted position. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Weimer. Commissioner Gale?
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'd also like to acknowledge Hispanic Heritage Month, and since I'm half Italian, I figure I might as well acknowledge Italian Heritage Month. And the story of Italian people is an essential part of the narrative of the United States. The values of the Italian community, which consists of love of family, a strong work ethic, and a great respect for heritage, are all American values. With strength, courage, wit, and creativity, Italian Americans have thrived and left a beautiful, lasting mark on our literature, arts, our civic, and government institutions. We are proud to have organizations right here in Norristown and throughout the county, such as the Mount Carmel Club, the Holy Savior Parish Club, and the Sons and Daughters of Italy, that throughout the county work together to foster awareness and appreciation of the extraordinary roles of Italians and Italian Americans that have played such an impact in shaping our region and county and even across the world. So I hope you join me in recognizing the many ways Italian Americans have enriched our communities. With Columbus Day quickly approaching, there's many ceremonies taking place throughout the county. Just this past weekend, I had the privilege to visit our neighboring county in Philadelphia for the St. Nicholas Italian Festival in South Philadelphia, where they honored 3 accomplished Italian Americans in the music industry. They were music giants. One was Charlie Gracie, who is a dear friend of mine. All 3 of these individuals, by the way, passed away this year, a matter of months together. Jerry Blavitt, famous disc jockey in the region, and also Bobby Rydell, another musician who was also a resident here in Montgomery County, lived in Whippane Township, another friend of mine. So it was nice to see these accomplished Italian Americans be honored at the St. Nicholas Parish Festival. And throughout this weekend and on Monday, there's many other similar events taking place across the county and the region, and I encourage everyone to go out and display their Italian pride. I didn't realize it was a World Teachers Day. I'd also like to give a shout out to our teachers. My mother, who's the Italian in my family, is also a retired teacher. She worked for several decades for the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit, and I admire all the hard work and dedication they put forward to benefit our children throughout the county. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll now move on to announcements, commendations, presentations, and reports. And first up, it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So we have a few speakers on that. Mr. Kehs will start us off.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Michael Kehs, and I stand before you today as the Chair of Montgomery County's Domestic Violence Legal Network. I am joined by representatives of two of our member agencies. Beth Struman is the Executive Director of Laurel House, and Kathy Rusch is the Medical Advocate Coordinator for the Women's Center of Montgomery County. We are also joined by Judge Kelly Wall, our Judicial Liaison. DVLN was established in Montgomery County over 35 years ago by professionals from law enforcement, the court system, and agencies working with victims of domestic violence for the purpose of sharing resources and expertise to serve domestic violence victims more effectively. Multiple county offices are represented on DVLN, and the county generously supports our efforts by hosting our website. On behalf of DVLN, I would like to thank you for your ongoing support. Education and awareness is what DVLN is all about, and October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. DVAM was first observed on a national level in 1987. President Biden signed a proclamation on September 29th of this year, proclaiming October as National Domestic Violence Awareness and Prevention Month, adding the and prevention for the first time. I would also like to share a few lines of the proclamation with you. Domestic violence touches every community in this nation. 4 in 10 American women and nearly 3 in 10 American men are impacted by sexual abuse, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner at some point in their lifetimes. Every survivor should know that they are not alone and they deserve better. I call upon each of us to change the social norms that permit domestic violence, provide meaningful support to survivors, and express gratitude to those working diligently on prevention and response efforts. Together, we can transform the country and build a nation where all people live free from violence. Locally, there were 1,830 new PFA filings in Montgomery County in 2022, last year, and we are on track for even more filings in 2023. There is obviously much work yet to be done. I think adding that focus on prevention is also a key. DVLN will be hosting a Domestic Violence Awareness Month ceremony on October 18th at noon in Courtroom A. We have been honored with the Commissioner's presence over the past many years, featuring the reading of the county's DVAM proclamation. This year, we will be honoring 2 incredible individuals who have devoted their lives to the fight against domestic violence. Tina Quincy, formerly with Laurel House, and Denise Flynn, formerly with the Women's Center. We will also be showcasing the powerful Empty Place at the Table display, as well as student art and poetry. So we hope you can all join us on the 18th. I want to thank you for allowing us to highlight this month of awareness, and I'd now like to ask Beth and Kathy to share a few words.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Mike Kehs, who I've been calling Kehs for 18 years, for your capable and really amazing leadership of DVLN for so many years. We appreciate that and the support of the county and the commissioners for that effort. I think all of you are familiar with Laurel House. We are a domestic violence agency founded in 1980. We started as a shelter and a hotline and quickly realized that there were other needs that the folks who came to us for help had, some directly connected to the trauma that they'd experienced and the displacement that they'd experienced by leaving their homes due to domestic abuse, and some peripheral situation or needs that had arisen as a result of being homeless and being having to leave so quickly, maybe having at that time in the late 70s, early 80s, a lot of the folks that came to domestic abuse organizations for help hadn't worked outside the home, didn't have a source of income, so they were financially reliant on the person that was abusing them. So there were a lot of diverse needs in addition to just having a safe place to go. So our founders, our founding mothers, who some of whom we're in partnership, had come from the Women's Center and continue to work with the Women's Center of Montgomery County. Our founding mothers, all of whom were volunteers, started by taking people to their own homes, and then quickly that didn't work out so well. Their own families were looking for to have their family room back. And so that's why they started the shelter. And over the many, many years that Laurel House was based out of that shelter in Norristown, we developed counseling services, prevention, education services. I appreciate Mr. Kehs emphasizing the importance of prevention. We developed counseling services for people, not only people who came to us for shelter, but people from the community who maybe were still in an abusive relationship or had gotten out of one and wanted some support and help to heal from the trauma, or maybe grew up in a home where they witnessed abuse and now we're looking to find some healing from the trauma that they experienced as children. My written speech is totally not what I'm talking about now, but I do want to go back and look at my notes for a minute. Because this is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, we have a lot of events, both fundraising, and awareness-raising events that we focus on during this month, as well as later next spring. And sometimes people say to me, why do you have all these special events? Aren't you a service organization? And what we've learned is that many people would never call a hotline, maybe never come to us for asking for help with counseling. But they'll come to basket bingo. I know that sounds strange, but they'll come to bingo and they'll pick up a brochure and they'll learn a little something more. Maybe they'll hear from a survivor, or they'll read in the program a survivor's story, or they'll see what services we offer that go well beyond shelter. People don't need to leave a relationship to come to us for help. And so they'll see that and they'll tuck that information away, either the brochure somewhere where it's safe to keep, or they'll tuck the information away mentally, and then later if they need it, they know where to call for help, or they know where to refer a friend or a coworker or a neighbor, a colleague. We've had a lot of referrals from people where somebody found out about our services, shared it with a coworker that they were concerned about, and eventually helped support that coworker to make a call to come to us for help. So we have a lot of special events. Chairman Lawrence has participated in our men's walk, which helps to highlight, and we know that domestic violence occurs in men as well as women, but helps to highlight what it's like, continues to be like for some women who live in a domestic abuse situation. And that's a fun event that helps to get out a different part of the community that might, again, never know about domestic abuse if they don't come to those kinds of events. I did give Megan a list of our service statistics from last year, as our fiscal year, which ended in the end of June, as well as some agency brochures. And I do want to just quickly run through a list of the services that we provide, which I inadvertently leave out something important if I don't look at my notes. So we do have a 24/7 hotline response. Last year we received and responded to over 3,000 hotline calls. Sometimes people call the hotline looking for shelter, but sometimes they just call for support. Maybe someone's left an abusive relationship and they are wondering if that was the right decision. They're lonely, they're scared financially or otherwise, and they just want somebody to talk to, so they'll call the hotline after the kids are in bed just so that they have somebody to talk to. We have our emergency shelter for adults and children. It's a 12-bedroom shelter, which has been moved up to Lansdale. It's a really great building that has served our community well for the past year since it's been open. Post-shelter transitional and rapid rehousing. We have free and confidential individual and support group, which I've already talked a little bit about. We have a domestic abuse response team that goes out 24/7 when requested by law enforcement or medical personnel. And we do court accompaniment, civil legal representation, and we do a lot of training for middle schools, high schools, colleges, educational staff. Sometimes kids will talk to the cafeteria lady before they'll talk to a school counselor, so we try to educate as many people within a school community as possible about how to help and about healthy relationships. That's just a really brief summary. We do, as you'll see when you look at our service statistics, we do a lot of different things. But I do want to really quickly talk about one of the biggest challenges that our folks face now is the shortage of affordable housing throughout our county. We have 2 transitional housing units post-shelter in Norristown and 5 in North Wales that we are currently needing to renovate and turn into a 6-unit building with 1 ADA accessible unit. This is often a barrier, that shortage of affordable housing is, and I know you're all very familiar with the shortage of affordable housing that touches not just domestic violence survivors, but everyone in our community. This is often a barrier, though, for folks who want to leave an unsafe relationship, and it's also a reason that people sometimes go back to an unsafe relationship because they don't have anywhere else to go. So we're working with the county leadership. We appreciate the support from the county housing department and the leadership throughout the county, and with other stakeholders to look for solutions to this problem. We know it's a long-term, it won't be a quick solution, it'll be a long-term project, but we're grateful for the support from the county as we continue to move forward with that. Lastly, our tagline is working to end domestic violence, and as Mr. Kehs said, that's an aspirational goal for all of us, knowing that that probably won't happen during most of our lifetimes. We are working diligently every day to try to reduce the incidents, to help folks learn more about healthy relationships, and to make sure that people know that services are available if and when they want to reach out for help. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning. My name is Kathy Rusch. I am the Medical Advocate Coordinator at the Women's Center of Montgomery County. Thank you, Commissioners, for the opportunity to speak today about Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Domestic Violence Awareness Month, as Mr. Kehs said, began in 1987. During this month, victim advocates, allied professionals, survivors of abuse, their loved ones, and the surrounding community come together to mourn the lives lost to domestic violence, to celebrate the progress that has been made to end this epidemic, and connect with others working to create real change. As an organization, the Women's Center assisted approximately 4,000 individuals from Montgomery County last year. 569 of these individuals, the survivors, were men. These are members of our community. They're our sisters, our brothers, our friends, our coworkers, and they are our parents. 1 in 3 women, 1 in 4 men, and nearly half of LGBTQ plus individuals will experience domestic violence in their lifetime. Last year, 101 of these victims in Pennsylvania died at the hands of their abuser. Here in Montgomery County, we lost 4 of our residents to domestic violence. Organizations such as the Women's Center of Montgomery County, where I am from, and Laurel House work every day to provide support and services to those who need them to safely leave their abuser. Many of these survivors have pets, children, or may be unemployed, which only adds additional worry and layers to an already frightening situation. Since 1976, the Women's Center has continued to grow services to meet the needs of these survivors. The Women's Center has medical advocates in 3 Montgomery County hospitals. We have 7 office locations, including our Protection from Abuse office in the Montgomery County Courthouse. The Women's Center continues to provide a safe space for young adults to discuss healthy relationships on our teen text line. Our purpose is to be where we can best aid those suffering from domestic violence. In 2016, the Pennsylvania legislature passed the felony strangulation law. If an individual strangles or attempts to strangle an intimate partner or a member of their own household, it's graded a felony. Under the prior law, an accusation of choking or strangulation with minimal injuries would have been charged as a simple assault or a harassment charge. Strangulation is an indicator of rising violence. According to the Strangulation Institute, a victim of strangulation is 750 times more likely to die by gun violence from their abuser. This past year, the Women's Center created the high-risk assessment team to share this information with survivors, law enforcement, medical practitioners, and our district court judges. Currently, there is no resource to identify a convicted abuser to the public, other than the strangulation charge. And as stated before, this is an escalated action. Many victims live years with coercive control, being financially, emotionally, and verbally abused. Once an abuser rises to the physical assault level, it falls to that victim to find the internal strength to plan a safe way out and a place to hide. Organizations like ours are here to help. Community awareness of these programs are vital to get help to those in need and to let people know that they do not have to live in this horror. Across the country, survivors are promoting change. There's a movement to begin a domestic abuse registry founded by a survivor. To have such a system in place to cast light on a history of relationship abuse and violence would go a great distance to informing potential victims of an abuser's past. Through the strength of survivors and allies, positive change continues to happen. We must all keep working to bring domestic abuse out of the shadows and do this in honor of those who have been lost to domestic violence and do it in solidarity with those who continue to suffer and fight this abuse. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes our
I
presentation.
just want to say something.
Go ahead, Judge,
Just
please.
cut me out, excuse me.
No, no, no. You weren't originally going to. Please.
I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank the commissioners for continued support. I think Montgomery County has the best foundation for addressing domestic violence awareness. I want to thank Commissioner Lawrence, who joined us yesterday on the courthouse for our Lighting the Courthouse Purple awareness ceremony. Okay, thank you. All right.
Now we're concluded.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Mike, I was certainly going to let Judge Wall speak. First, Mike, I just want to personally thank you for your leadership with DVLN. I know that you were instrumental in starting the program and have really shepherded it each year since then. So I want to thank you for your leadership and your commitment through all the years here in Montgomery County. It's a big reason why we're recognized as a leader in this. You know, I always say that I wish we didn't need organizations like Laurel House, like the Women's Center, Victim Services Center, but I'm so grateful that we have you and you partner with us and work with us each and every day. Beth, when I became a commissioner, you were one of the first meetings that I had to take to the shelter in Norristown. I quickly realized that I had no choice but to go. But you've taught me a lot personally. You did not plug the 5K, so your staff is going to get on you for that. There is a 5K run for Laurel House this month, which I've participated in as well. But I want to thank the Laurel House and the Women's Center and Victim Services as well for really partnering with the county and advocating and holding us accountable to make sure that we need to do what we need to do. And as you announced, the courthouse will be lit purple this month. So if you're driving by at night, then you can take note of that. But thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you for that great presentation. And, you know, I too am sorry that we even have to talk about this, but in my time in East Norton Township, knowing the work that you all are doing at the Laurel House and the Women's Center, it's so important for women and men to come forward and share very personal experiences with their abusers. It's a hard process, and really grateful that we've got great community advocates coupled with our courts and our county offices to ensure that women and men know that despite being in a scary situation, that there's resources that they can avail themselves to, and that they don't have to be stuck in a toxic situation. So one of my first events as a commissioner was to come to the Laurel House. I think it was the gala, and I sat next to a victim that Laurel House had helped some 7 years prior, got her and her kids out of a very toxic situation, and I think her abuser was in prison for attacking her for a long time. And so to hear those stories, it really humanizes what people are going through. So thank you for your leadership, and I look forward to supporting the work that you all are doing in the days, weeks, months, and years ahead. So.
I would also like to thank you all for joining us this morning to help promote domestic violence awareness and also all the work you do to prevent domestic violence. I've worked closely with you throughout the years, and it's truly a team effort from the court system, which is represented today, law enforcement, and also our nonprofit organizations all play a significant role in combating this issue. So thank you for what you do throughout the course of the year.
Thank you very much.
All right, next up we have Dr. Lorraine, our medical director in the Department of Health and Human Services in the Office of Public Health.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. Good morning, Montgomery County citizens. So every year around this time, we start thinking about the respiratory illness season. And of course, the last few years have been relatively extraordinary. But I particularly wanted to go back to last year and talk about something that we referred to as the triple-demic. Next slide, please. So last year, as we were coming out of the pandemic and focusing only on COVID, we actually experienced a significant rise very early in the season of two particular respiratory illnesses. Flu, of course, which everyone is aware of, and something called RSV, respiratory syncytial virus. And I'll just digress for a second and say that RSV has actually been around for quite a while. It's not anything new, although it's new to the public. But we had no treatment for it, we had no vaccine for it, and therefore we didn't focus on it very much. So this very, very early rise in flu and RSV cases led to that, in combination with COVID, something that we refer to as a triple-demic, triple epidemic. And as you can see from the graph down at the bottom, that first curve in black all the way to the left, that was last year's respiratory illnesses. So normally we'll see a peak somewhere around February. We actually had a peak mid-October last year. And we were very, very concerned at that time that this early peak might lead to really, really significant illnesses throughout the season, overwhelming our healthcare system. And we were very, very busy at the beginning of the respiratory illness season. However, as you can see, very fortunately, it tailed off fairly quickly, so that by the time we got to midwinter, our cases were very, very low. So we essentially dodged a bit of a bullet on that one. Next, please. So this is where we are right now. ILINet is Influenza-Like Illness Network. This is a countrywide network of reporting offices talking about respiratory symptoms. My office was part of this network as well. And this is good news. I'd like to specifically address that to Chairman Lawrence, who has said in the past that anytime he sees me, he feels bad news is going to follow. So this is good news. We're green almost across the board, with the exception of Washington, New York, and the Northern Marianas Islands. It's minimal to low activity at this point. Also, we're going to project, as far as the flu season goes, that it's going to be somewhat of a normal flu season this year, because that's what they had in the southern hemisphere, which predates us by about 6 months. So specifically talking about flu, and here are the reasons why flu vaccination is so important. So number one, of course, we would like to keep people from getting the flu, but that actually is not the primary reason for getting a flu vaccine. Not unlike COVID, the main purpose of the vaccine actually is to decrease the severity of the illness. So we know that people who are immunized for flu, even if they get the flu, they're much less likely to be admitted to a hospital, they're less likely to need medical care, they're less likely to go into an intensive care unit, they're less likely to die from it. Also, it's very, very important for pregnant women to get a flu vaccine during the season, because it helps protect them, it helps protect the baby as well, who will have antibodies that transmit from the mother all the way through 6 months of age. And it also helps us in decreasing the spread of the disease, which is always very important. Next, please. So who should get a flu vaccine? Everyone 6 months and older. Very, very rare exceptions, and mostly that has to do with allergies to the vaccine itself. Yet in spite of these campaigns, we're pretty much steady at around 50% per year of people who get the flu vaccine. And we know that if more people did get their flu vaccine, there would be hundreds of thousands of hospitalizations that would be decreased and prevented, tens of thousands of deaths. So if we can convince more people that this vaccine is in their best interest, we will have a much healthier population and a safer population. Moving on to COVID, because we have to talk about it. I've used this slide a lot, and I think this is a very, very important slide, because it shows us graphically two really important things. The first one is that it shows the difference between vaccination and lack of vaccination in COVID outcomes. This is a graph of deaths due to COVID. The top line is unvaccinated. There are two lines actually at the bottom. It's a little hard to see. Those are the vaccinated population, and when we developed the bivalent vaccine last year, that came in as the second line at the bottom. So you can see the disparity between the deaths in the unvaccinated population and the vaccinated population. The second part that is really important is that we can see graphically here how we are in a much different place than we were 3 years ago. So the number of deaths is tailing off. The seriousness is decreasing. And that is due in large part to the fact that we've learned how to take care of COVID, but we also have found that the vaccination and having the disease increases the immunity in the population. Next, please. So I included this slide because I wanted to see where we are right now. If you look all the way to the right of that graph, you see we did have a little bit of an increase. This is hospitalizations. And we had a bit of an increase over the past month or two. And I think everybody knows somebody who's had COVID recently. But here's another little piece of good news. The last 2 weeks have tapered off. So we're hopeful that maybe that might be our peak for right now. Next, please. I am very, very quickly going to go through this because with all the way the vaccines came out, it got a little bit confusing, the different doses, the different boosters that we had. So the initial vaccines that we had available were from Johnson & Johnson, which has since been discontinued because it's not as effective as the other ones. The Moderna, the Pfizer-BioNTech are similar to each other. It's a novel method of delivering vaccine, messenger RNA. It's really good. It's been in development for about 20 years. Novavax came out a little bit over a year ago. It's a little bit more similar to traditional vaccines. Now, boosters over time, we used the Pfizer and the Moderna. Initially, it was the ancestral vaccine. That had been discontinued. Last year in September, the bivalent Pfizer and Moderna came out. And just a couple of weeks ago, we now have a new monovalent vaccine from Pfizer and Moderna based on the XBB.1.5, which is a newer Omicron variant. Novavax, I was going to put it in there, did not yet have their approval for their booster, but actually yesterday it was approved for booster. So that's specifically for those who have had the Novavax before. They can now get a booster dose. The Pfizer and the Moderna, by the way, are considered interchangeable. Who should get this vaccine? Well, according to the CDC, everybody should get this updated vaccine. The thing with COVID is that immunity does wane over time, and you can get COVID again. So the level of immunity will decrease. You have a bump in immunity if you happen to get COVID. You get a bump in immunity even more if you get the vaccine. So the idea of vaccinating everyone with this new monovalent vaccine is to keep up that level of protection. Now, I will say that everyone will need to look at this recommendation and make their own decision based on their own risk-benefit analysis. But this is the guideline from CDC to try to keep up that level of immunity. Next, please. RSV, I'll go through this fairly quickly. It's like I said, it's been around for a while, and originally, especially in the medical community, we thought of it as a childhood disease. Pretty much every child in their first 2 years of life will get RSV. Sometimes it's a cold, sometimes it's a really severe respiratory illness requiring hospitalization. But what we didn't really focus on, and we can now, is that it's actually responsible for some pretty significant morbidity and mortality in the elderly population. So people 65 years and older can get this virus, and a significant number of them, over 170,000, are actually hospitalized because of respiratory illness due to RSV. And there's an estimated 14,000 that actually die from this. Next, please. So why is that important now? Because we have vaccine. 2 vaccines were approved in the spring. And who should get it? Well, the recommendation is it's approved for people 60 and older, but it's not axiomatic that every 60-year-old should get this vaccine. You should go through a process called shared decision-making, where you consult with your trusted healthcare professional, and you look at what your individual risk is for severe RSV disease and make the decision to get that vaccine. Interestingly, also, it's been recommended for pregnant women at 32 to 36 weeks, again with the idea of providing that antibody protection to the child up to 6 months. Now, of those, only one of those vaccines is approved for that particular use. For infants, we don't yet have a vaccine. It is in development, and it probably will be approved within a year or two. But there is a monoclonal antibody that has been approved that is specifically recommended for infants at high risk. Next, please. So, of course, I have to give a big shout out to our clinics, and we have some clinical representatives here today. So it's important to note that at our clinics over the next month and two, we will be offering COVID vaccine and flu vaccine. So we have one coming up in Norristown at the library. We just completed one in Pennsburg, and then we have those other three scheduled going into November. There will be more as well in November. But it's not just the Office of Public Health that we have these clinics with. We've also developed some great partnerships over the last couple of years, particularly with Montgomery County Immunization Coalition, with a number of pharmacies in the county, and with a number of organizations. So this Saturday is the annual, say, Boo to the Flu at the Zoo. So anyone who comes and gets a flu vaccine will get free admission to the Elmwood Park Zoo. And then there's a series of clinics that are hosted by the Bethel AME Church, along with Giant Pharmacy and sponsored by MCIC, being held all through October. And if you look up at the top of that, although it's a little hard to read, they're actually going to offer COVID vaccine, flu vaccine, Tdap, tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis, shingles vaccine, pneumonia, and the RSV vaccine. So there's opportunities to get all of these vaccines. There's also your individual healthcare provider, pharmacies throughout the county, so there are many, many sources for these vaccines. And with that, I'm open for any questions that you may have. I did put one in there that we always get. Can these vaccines be administered at the same time? And the answer is absolutely yes. And it actually is a best practice. Another way to answer these questions, the Montgomery County Immunization Coalition, along with the Office of Public Health, has been hosting a series of Ask the Experts town halls over the past year. Number 4 will be coming up in December, where we'll be talking about flu vaccine. Of course, it is our hope that everyone will have gotten their flu vaccine by then, as the best time to get it is by the end of October. I will be moderating that one as well. And I'm open to any questions, and we have one vaccination to give.
One vaccination to give. Leave no man behind. My colleagues went without me. So that's, Dr. Lorraine, thank you for being here. And I want to state for the record that I'm always happy to see you, even when you bring bad news. And I just want to thank you for your leadership over these past 3 years on this. Congratulate you on your recent promotion as well. And thank all of our community partners who are out there during the season trying to get people vaccinated.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I did get my flu shot on Monday, so.
All right,
Appreciate the update, Dr. Lorraine.
So I'm doing this now, before the bond presentation, or we going? All right, let's go.
Your right arm?
Right arm.
Okay.
How far up are we gonna have to go?
So that we can get this up. You know this is always
I
problem.
tried to wear a loose shirt.
That's why we have two of us, one to hold the shirt on. Don't wear these kind of shirts when you're going to get your flu shot.
Turn off the audio in case I scream.
Just relax your arm. Just relax it down. There you go. So Jamie's going to give you your shot. Not holding it. Normally, we will tell the person to take their shirt off if we have this situation, but
Don't do that today.
we won't do that today. That's why we have two of us. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, you can clap, Commissioner Wonder. Yeah, thank you.
Didn't hurt a bit, right?
Not at all.
Perfect. Right. Good job. We got a lollipop
I
for you?
got a lollipop. I got a butterscotch lollipop, which is great, which I will have after the meeting.
And we hope that you'll wear your flu vaccine check.
All right. Thank you for always being gentle.
We do our best. We try at least. Okay. All right, well, hopefully we'll see some of you at our clinics. Thank you.
All right. Let's get on with the bond presentation. Mr. Dortone.
Morning, Commissioners. As you know, we completed the Series A and B of 2023 new money bond issue Tuesday morning. Today we have Dan Kozloff, John Crotty with PFM. They're our financial advisors that are going to walk you through a presentation of the sale results. So with that, I'm going to invite Dan Kozloff and John up to the podium.
Thank you, Dean. Good morning. We won't be administering any shots as part of this. Thanks for the time today. John Karate and I from PFM, we're the financial advisors to the county. Pleased to be in front of you today to report another strong results from a bond sale that occurred this past Tuesday, just 2 days ago. It is a different market than what we've been accustomed to for the last 15 plus years. However, that being said, the county's AAA rating from Moody's, the county's continued strong financial position, strong management, certainly the staff, Dean and his team, has led to investors still being very eager to lend money to the county for its projects. We saw a very good turnout on Tuesday from investors, as John will go into detail on. And again, different market, but strong results for the county, and happy to be here to present that and talk to you about that today.
Thanks, Dan, and good morning, Commissioners. So yeah, to report on the bond sale from Tuesday, the county sold $155,605,000 of general obligation bonds in the form of two series. Series A was $141,395,000, and Series B, $14,210,000. The sale date was there on Tuesday, October 3rd at 10:30 in the morning. The bonds will close on November 1st. That's when the money is in hand. The Series A bonds, you can actually go to the next slide. 150 million of the Series A bonds were issued to fund various capital projects in the 5-year capital plan, Justice Center, Montgomery County Library, to name a few. And the Series B bonds were the motor vehicle registration fee bonds in the amount of 15 million of project funds that will be used for the roads and bridges projects throughout the county. You can go to the next one, please. Again, this is a testament, as Dan mentioned, to the AAA rating of the county for the 6th straight consecutive year. Moody's has reaffirmed the county at AAA. This was a process that started over a decade ago, back in 2012, when the county lost its AAA for the first time, downgraded to AA1. We worked diligently since 2016, bringing Moody's down here for a site visit where we toured the county and the King of Prussia area and the construction that was going on, which led to a positive outlook in the 2017 issuance. For the first time since that 2012 downgrade, Moody's was upgraded in 2018 to AAA. This is the first time that the county was also rated under a new methodology that Moody's put out in fall of last year, and just a testament, again, to the strong work here from the county leaders and the finance team, reaffirmed at AAA. Some highlights that Moody's put into their report are the large dynamic economy here in the area, the low debt and pension burdens, and the strong fiscal management. They indicated that the county has exhibited strong governance by adhering to their adopted fund balance policy. The tax base and population continues to be strong and remains an attractive community here in the Calder County region of Philadelphia. And the socioeconomic characteristics are all favorable for the wealthy and highly rated region that we sit in. So the results of the sale, how'd it go? We had 8 banks that came to bid. We made calls on the end of last week on Friday to a lot of the bulge bracket firms on Wall Street. There was sort of a tone of comfort to see Montgomery County come to market this week. This was the largest tax-exempt competitive deal of the week, the 3rd largest competitive. And The sale was, as we mentioned, on Tuesday morning at 10:30. The winning bank goes to the lowest bidder, and that was Jeffries, who came in with a rate of 4.3%. Next slide. So as Dan alluded to, we are in a very different market right now in terms of interest rates. We are all familiar with the Fed interest rate hikes to cool inflation that we've been hearing about on CNBC and any other market websites that you guys follow. That is the same case for the muni market. We are sitting at that blue line right there at the top of this page, which is where we were on Tuesday on the 3rd. Our last bond deal, which was in the end of June last year, was the yellow line right underneath there. So if you look at the comparison to the recent sales results table at the bottom of the page, you'll see the 4.3% there that we have this year. It is relatively higher on a true interest cost basis. What's important to note, I think, is the county's done a good job with their new money on a dollar cost averaging, which is a respectful rate for the various projects that have been going on in the capital plan. Here's the results of the deal. After the bids came in, we did run all of the compliance through the PA-DCED Local Government Unit Debt Act with their bond counsel, Kehs and O'Connor. And despite that current market volatility that we have and the run-up in interest rates, the AAA-rated county bonds and the name and the comfort of the credit was a testament to you all, and gave a lot of the investors the reasoning to put their money to work with the county. If you can see the two tables, there's a weighted average spread to the AAA high-grade index of about 11 to 10 basis points. That just means you priced about 0.1% higher than all of the AAA credits blended across the country. So really good pricing results, and again, a testament to the county here. So we layered that debt service in this green line here on top of the existing county portfolio of debt. You can see it's level or declining across the next 20 years. And strategically, since 2018, we've been lowering the debt impact through fiscal year 24, which is next year. So this is the last time we'll be doing that. It's mostly interest only next year in the amount of $7.6 million. And then the remaining 19 years, 25 through 43, are about $12.8 million of debt service payments on a level basis. And this is just a tabular format of that graph to show the numbers that roll up. The third column in from the left is the principal in the amount of $155,605,000. The next column over is interest, just under $1 million, to equate to about $251 million of new debt service over the 20 years. Happy to answer any questions.
8 feels like a real good number, right? Is that one of the highest that I've seen?
Yeah, it's very strong. In the environment that we're in, there still continues to be a strong supply out there in the market. There was about $8.5 billion worth of bonds sold this week, which has been the norm throughout the year. But investors are, with higher interest rates, they get to be a little bit picky, especially with the market being volatile. The fact that you had 8 show up and put in strong bids for this, again, it shows that there are a lot of investors out there that are eager to purchase bonds from the county.
Thank you for the presentation. I just want to publicly acknowledge our 6 years at AAA. I want to thank Dean Dortone, our CFO, for leading us in that, getting us back to AAA and keeping us there. But it takes a team. Lisa Altesiak, Barbara O'Malley, and all of our county employees for doing that, and PFM working with this as well. AAA is where we belong. It's where we should be, and I hope we can remain there so we can continue to get competitive bids like this for our taxpayers. So,
Nice work to the team.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you.
all right, we will now move on to public comment.
First up is just,
My name is Pauline Braccio from Tomlinson Township.
Again, I'm reading from the law, the Sunshine Law. Now, although members of the agency are not required to provide an answer, it's a good practice to do so whenever possible. Answering questions, can demonstrate a commitment to helping constituents, and in many cases, answering questions informally at a meeting can reduce future requests under the right to know law, which saves time and money for both the agency and the commenter. You know, when you make a remark after somebody's already seated, that's not a give and take. That's not answering a question. That's making your comment, defending a mayor who was wrong. It also says agencies must provide a reasonable opportunity for residents and/or taxpayers to comment on an issue before a decision takes place. You guys come in here with your decisions already made, you make a big deal of having a vote, and, but we've never even heard of it. Prison is a really good example. It can be a good practice to allow for flexibility in any policy imposing time limits on public comment, taking care to ensure that the agency does not show partiality to some commenters over others. And Ray, you do that. The two commenters on Zoom last meeting, they were not talking about anything to do with the county at all. They were talking about us who come up to the podium. So, and you just let them go, you didn't cut them off.
Mr.
And
McGarry,
if I say anything.
how long do we have to go on an objection?
Thank you for your objection.
Well, I didn't finish exactly. I'm pointing something out, and I would like for you to
Your objection
answer
is noted.
why you allow them to continue to speak about something that's nothing to do with the county.
Your objection is noted. Thank you.
Well, then I want to see how you do that this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First up is Giuseppe Monticelli.
Giuseppe Crini Monticelli, Concha Hockin Borough, secondary, primary, Springfield. I also have rental properties, rent, mobile, Upper Gwinnett Township, Lower Marion, Upper Marion, Cheltenham. I want to talk about, we have Mr. Mike here still, Mr. Mike Kehs from the Domestic Violence Awareness. I want to talk about how it's just not only his organization, but crisis text line. Anyone can text in, share to 741-741 or 988 and get some really good resources for domestic violence. It seems like you guys also forgot about Italian Heritage Month. You guys also forgot about Amanda Todd and Mental Health Awareness Day on October 10th. You can join Canada in going purple for the county courthouse on October 10th to show the county's recognition of Mental Health Awareness Day. It's very important that we go ahead and do that, not only for the community, but also for these public servants. I want to talk about the Norristown Old Men's Prison here. Is under my understanding, and thank you to incoming Commissioner Thomas DeBello, that you need asbestos to be tested in that building. It doesn't look like you have done so. The county did throw out some numbers at the recent HARB meeting, 150,000, I believe, or approximate like that, just to do that won't cover it. You need more money to do the asbestos testing there. And if you gotta knock down the old men's prison, you gotta release poltergeist activity. You gotta go, and you don't believe that, go ahead and contact Katrina Weidman, paranormal investigator. She can come and do a really nice investigation. We need to stabilize that old men's prison instead of demolishing it. And the decision is up to you, commissioners, where that comes down in some aspect, but it's really with Tom over by the city of Norristown Council. He's the president, so it's up to him. But I just want to say here that in my last few minutes here, I will be showing photos here and hopefully in meetings here before you leave, Mr. Lawrence, of that Ambler fire. and what occurred there and how outrageous it was of the actions I saw that day. Thank you.
Next up is Pauline Bracchio.
Pauline Braccio, Tomenson Township, and I don't know if Mr. Craney Monticelli didn't hear you, but I do appreciate you talking about Italian Heritage Month, and you too, Joe. My family is from Italy. I'm first generation here. My mother's father actually fought in World War I for the United States. My other grandfather was out doing the working on the railroad. So, the thing about the prison is that we already know that you've already sold the stone. Mr. Hahn let that slip. So you have a plan here so that the company, Tamco, that's going to demolish the building is going to sell the stone, and you and Tom LaPera will most likely be getting some of those funds. The other thing that I learned was very recently, actually like 3 days ago, was that Montgomery County purchased a huge fire truck and they have no place to house it. So now they're talking about knocking down the prison to put a firehouse up there and closing the other firehouses. Well, that makes no sense. Why would you close firehouses throughout the city and just put one with a big super truck that doesn't fit anywhere? Because the truck would have to go in and come out. You can't back this truck up, okay? So if you're gonna put it in that place where the prison is now, you have Marshall Street, which is very narrow, and you have East Area on the other side, which is one way. So if there is a problem, a fire, and they need to get out, it's going to be extremely difficult. And when the traffic hits, you know, even if you get somebody out there to stop traffic, you have to wait for the lights so you can make room. It just makes no sense. Okay, so you're pulling something here just before you're leaving because you think you're smart. You made a promise about helping the homeless way back a few months ago. You haven't done anything about that. You know, you're desperate, and the stench of you is of desperation. The other thing is about the bonds. Oh, go ahead and laugh. Go ahead.
I was asking if he smelled anything, but he said I smell good, so.
Well, you don't really smell good, but that's his
I don't know that
opinion.
you're close enough to.
Don't need to do that. Okay, you can be quiet now. Thank you, because otherwise the clock has to stop.
Yeah, your clock's
So I want
ticking.
5 seconds more.
You're not getting 5
Anyway.
seconds more.
You know, because you're a jerk. Anyway, what I noticed on the slides for the bonds is that you have a strong tax base, because the tax base keeps growing because you keep raising taxes. And that's all you do is raise taxes. It's ridiculous. You're killing the people of this county with all the tax hikes. It really makes no sense to do that either. So instead of helping the county, you're hurting the county. You want to close down the firehouses that exist to make one firehouse in a location that's not going to be feasible. And why would you buy a huge truck before even having a place to put it?
Thank you for your time.
So I get 5 extra
No,
seconds.
you don't. Please sit
Anyway,
down.
yeah, actually I should.
No, you don't. Please sit down.
You don't really know the law, do you?
I do.
No, you don't.
Next up is David Morgan.
Yes, ma'am.
David Morgan of Ambler. I've been concerned about the last 2 meetings. The September 7th meeting had the bond issue come up for, it's limited apparently to just 2023 and 2024 for capital projects Series A. And this results in a changed amount just today of not 11.3 million debt service per year, but 12.8 million I heard today in today's meeting. So these amounts are going to be all the way to 2043 with our children's future impacted by debt service. And having a AAA is totally dependent, well, at least the majority amount, on taxpayers paying higher taxes. So we had a 5% raise, and then in that same year, in August, the commissioner spent 2-to-1, 180 million over the budget, and I did record this, and you've seen these before, my figures, and no one's challenged them. that additional expenditure went over the budget of 51 million. So then we have also further expending expected, but the future 2025 through 27 hasn't been addressed by this bond, from what I can tell. So we're going to be facing more and more tax increases, significant ones. And if you start with 5% and you're going to be using that as a base higher, then you start with 8% on that. Each base is higher to bring it much worse than just 21%. It's going to be accelerating in tax. So for our renters and our taxpayers who pay property tax in our April tax bill, look at your bills. They've been escalating. This interest rate is 4.3%, which is higher than originally forecast. That's caused us that larger amount. So that's concerning. That we're going into debt once again. The national debt, I think, is 32 trillion. I saw an article about that. So spending is easy, and conserving our funds for our taxpayers and thinking about our taxpayers is so much important. We need a change of outlook about this over years after years, seeing higher taxes. Then also, last meeting in the salary board, it was noted that we've been losing employees, 330 in 2020, 531 2021, 552 in 2022, 470 this year so far. So then another expenditure had to go through, millions, I think it was 13 million, to help our employers stay here. But if the priority is in a building across the street, Commissioner Gale, you noticed this one time, if our employees see this building going up and seeing their salaries not competitive with other counties, that's not good. But unfortunately, we are way higher than Bucks County's 86 million in 2015. The Broad Street Review article telling us that. We are first saying 415 million a lot. But if you take this new spending, we're up at 662 million. So that is such excessive, extreme
Thank you for your comments.
spending that is
Thank you, sir.
mounting.
Please be seated.
Next up is Marlene Laska on Zoom.
Yes, Marlene Laska, Upper Providence Township. Was very disappointed to see the announcement of the recognition of October 2nd through the 8th as the National Week Without Driving in the most recent Montgomery newsletter. We do not need a National Week Without Driving being promoted by a government entity. Such is antithetical to America and the American spirit. Driving is the epitome of freedom. The ability to go where you want, when you want, is a goal that should be encouraged, helping those without a car to achieve that goal, not encouraging support for not driving. Hopefully, public outrage will make this first of a kind week be the last of its kind. Public transportation is a stopgap measure that, while needed, should not be a goal in and of itself. The end goal should be to give those incapable of driving today to take part in the American dream to eventually be capable of acquiring a way to achieve that freedom of an open road. Plus, public transportation is very expensive. I often say I can't afford to be poor. Government should also be improving the road systems, making improvements that create hassle-free driving, not highlighting sustainable, a buzzword, modes of transportation. Bottom line, we should be encouraging those who cannot afford a car to be able to one day get that symbol of ultimate freedom. Thank you.
Next up is Natalie Simonetti, also on Zoom.
Hey, Natalie Simonetti, Telford. I was going to make a comment today, but after hearing that, I had thought that the concern with tearing down the prison was, about history or architecture or whatever, but I didn't realize there was a concern about releasing poltergeists. So maybe if you guys could speak to what you could do. I mean, I know that Ghostbusters isn't around anymore, but if you could speak to what else you could do to assuage the concerns of people who are worried about a poltergeist being released by the demolition, if you could do something to make them feel better, maybe maybe that would be a good way to move forward. Thanks, that's all I had to say.
And that is all for public comment.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the approval of the minutes. I'll make a motion to approve the September 21st, 2023 minutes of the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners. Is there a second?
I can second that.
Second by Commissioner Winder. Is there any board comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. Are there any negative votes? Minutes are approved. Now move on to resolutions. First up, we have an authorization to acquire a trail easement from Pottstown Borough for the Schuylkill River Trail.
Good morning. I'm here before you today representing the Planning Commission to request authorization for the county to enter into a trail easement agreement with the Pottstown Borough Authority for a small area needed to construct the last remaining segment of the Schuylkill River Trail in Montgomery County. We know this project as the Schuylkill River Trail to 422 connector in Lower Pottsgrove Township. The design for the trail alignment is identified a small area in the area shown on this slide, circled in red. It's 0.285 acres, which is just about 12,500 square feet of the Pottstown Borough Authority's property, where the trail will cross to connect to where it currently exists, as shown on the green line, an industrial highway on the east side of Pottstown there. And the Pottstown Borough Authority has offered to dedicate this easement to us. The easement that we had drafted and reviewed by our solicitor's office was executed by them at their September meeting. And so we're coming to you today to request that we finalize the agreement, which will be recorded in our Recorder of Deeds offices. And this is a plat of what the easement will look like. Our trail in this area will be 14 feet wide. The easement area is approximately 120 feet wide due to having to meander to make it accessible from where the trail is on Industrial Highway down along to the river. And so with this, we'll be able to move forward and put this out for construction, probably to start early next year.
All right, thank you. Let's get a motion on the table. I will move that the proper county officials, in accordance with the authority conferred by law, subject to the approval of the county solicitor, are hereby authorized to execute the necessary documents to obtain a trail easement from the Pottstown Borough Authority for construction of a segment of the Schuylkill River Trail. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I don't have any questions. I'm familiar with this area. I'm just very excited to see it moving forward.
Thank you.
Forward to the completion. So, any other questions? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. Are there any negative votes? Motion approved. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you.
Ms. Calder, authorization of TEFRA approval for Whitemarsh Continuing Care Retirement Community.
Thank you. The Montgomery County Industrial Development Authority, on behalf of the National Finance Authority, is requesting that this board approve a TEFRA for Whitemarsh Continuing Care Retirement Community, which operates as the Hill at Whitemarsh. The proposed issuance of a principal amount of $50 million in tax-exempt revenue bonds would be to finance expansion of the Hill at Whitemarsh, including approximately 54 new apartments in 5 two-story residential buildings, a new clubhouse with additional space for common amenities, and a renovation of the health center, including a dedicated memory care unit. The Internal Revenue Code requires that the county approve the issuance of tax-exempt obligations following a public hearing. A hearing was held on September 27, 2023, and no public comment was offered. Therefore, this matter is now before the board for approval.
Thank you. I'll make a motion that the proper county officials, in accordance with the authority conferred by law, subject to the approval of the county solicitor, hereby approve the project for the Whitemarsh Continuing Care Retirement Community and the issuance of bonds by the National Finance Authority for the financing of the project. Be it further resolved that the approvals and declarations in this resolution shall in no way pledge or otherwise obligate the credit or taxing power of the county, nor shall the county be liable for the payment of, principal of, or interest or premium, if any, on any obligations issued to finance the project. Nor shall the county have any obligation or liability whatsoever with respects to the project. This resolution shall take effect on the date of adoption hereof. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Winder. Any board comment or questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. Are there any negative votes? Motion passes. We have a couple of appointments to make. The first up is an appointment to the Suburban Transit Network. I will make a motion that Susan Wenbrick be appointed as the representative of the Montgomery County Office of Senior Services to the Suburban Transit Network to serve a term that begins immediately and expires on December 31st, 2023, and to serve at the pleasure of the county commissioners and in accordance with the current duly adopted bylaws. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Winder. Any board comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. Are there any negative votes? Motion passes. Next up, we have an appointment to the Schuylkill River Passenger Rail Authority. I'll make a motion that Stephanie Henrick be appointed to the Schuylkill River Passenger Rail Authority for a term that begins immediately and expires on July 31st, 2025, and to serve at the pleasure of the county commissioners and in accordance with the current duly adopted bylaws. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Winder. And just for a board comment, I'll mention that Ms. Hendrick is the mayor of Pottstown, so we are happy to have her join these efforts. Any other comments or questions? We'll move on to a vote. Are there any negative votes? Motion passes. Next up, we have personnel. Catherine Halen.
Good morning. You should have in front of you the final copy of the Commissioners Department's personnel list. It is a 4-page document dated Thursday, October 5th, 2023, with a timestamp of 7:30 a.m. All positions have been reviewed and accounted for and are presented for consideration.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve the October 5th, 2023 personnel presentation as given by Chief Human Resources Officer Catherine Halen and to authorize the proper county officials to execute the same. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Winder. Any board comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. Are there any negative votes? Motion passes. Before we move on to the advertisements of bids and RFPs, I want to take a moment to explain that we are instituting a new process for bids, RFPs, and contract awards, starting with this meeting. The Montgomery County Commissioner's Office is dedicated to making the functioning of the government as clear and as transparent as possible. We're open to ideas and feedback, and we want to adapt our processes and protocols when needed. So starting this week and going forward, a more detailed list of bids, RFPs, and contract awards will be part of the public agendas as exhibits posted on the Commissioner's webpage 24 hours prior to the start of the Commissioner's meeting with the agenda. These exhibits, with all the additional details usually read during the meeting, will be available for the public to read and review in advance of the meeting. These exhibits will include details like the contract recipient, purchase price, scope of the award, and funding sources. And this will provide interested citizens the chance to make informed comments prior to a vote. During the meeting, we will vote on whether to authorize the contracts contained within the publicly posted exhibits. So now we're going to move on to section 1 of the agenda, the resolution to approve the advertisements of bids and RFPs. So I will make a motion to approve the advertisement of bids and RFPs for Montgomery County on attached Exhibit A and to authorize the proper county officials to execute the same, subject to the approval of the county solicitor. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Winder. Is there any board comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. Are there any negative votes? Motion passes. We'll now move on to awards of contract. I'll make a motion to approve the contract awards, amendments, and renewals for Montgomery County on attached Exhibit B and to authorize the proper county officials to execute the same, subject to the approval of the county solicitor. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Winder. Is there any board comment?
Yes, I'd like to state that I object to contract amendment number 7 on the agenda, which is part of Exhibit B, and that's the amendment for election voting machines with Dominion.
Okay. Anything else? All right, I'm hearing no other comments. We'll move on to a vote. Commissioner Winder, are you fine? Okay, so please note that Commissioner Gale is a no on number 7. All others pass 3-0. That one passes 2-1. Next up, we have awards of contract for the Southeast PA Regional Task Force. I'll make a motion to approve the contract awards, amendments, and renewals for the Southeast PA Regional Task Force on attached Exhibit C, and to authorize the proper county officials to execute the same, subject to the approval of the county solicitor. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Winder. Any board comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. Are there any negative votes? Motion passes. Any closing commissioner comments? All right, I will announce that we have election board immediately following this meeting. Our next Board of Commissioners meeting is October 19th, 2023. And I'll make a motion to adjourn the October 5th, 2023 meeting of the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Winder. Any board comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. Are there any negative votes? Meeting is adjourned. Into salary board or election board? Salary board, okay. And I see the controller. She's in the room. All right, is there any public comment on salary board?
First up for public comment is Giuseppe Grini Monticelli.
Giuseppe Kearney Monticelli, primary Springfield, secondary Conshohocken. I want to talk about here real quick with the 911 communicators and also with CPS, children and youth caseworkers. They provide a vital function to county government, but it would seem like that you're getting a lot of resignations with especially 911 telecommunicators and public safety. I would question, why are we seeing a big resignation of 911 telecommunicators? We need to figure out that reason. That reason needs to be properly communicated to the public throughout commissioners' comments of why we might be seeing an increase in resignations and 911 telecommunicators. And when we're having these resignations, I would really hope the county provides diversity opportunities to people such as Italian Americans and Jewish people to go ahead and have an opportunity to participate and be a public servant of this county. I would hope that we have diversity more in the sheriff's department, especially. It is fundamentally important to have a diversity in the sheriff's department, as that can help with better community relations. Even though, as what Ms. Valerie Arcouche has said in the past, the county does not have a police service, I believe personally our sheriffs are a police service. And maybe we can set up some sheriffs to do some outside work besides from doing the security of the courthouse and civil work. Maybe we can actually have them out there assisting with townships and boroughs. I would end my comments of, when you're raising these per hour rates for these people just because you're seeing a decrease in people wanting to stay and be a public servant and they're resigning, oh, maybe it's our rates. Well, maybe you should conduct a survey. Maybe you should conduct a survey for your public servants of why do they have an inkling feeling of wanting to leave the position of public service and go into the private sector, perhaps. You got to really figure out the true reason for that.
That is all for public comment.
All right, Ms. Halen.
Good morning, members of Salary Board. You should have in front of you the final copy of the Salary Board list. It is a 4-page document dated Thursday, October 5th, 2023, with a timestamp of 7:30 a.m. All positions have been reviewed and accounted for and are presented for salary board consideration.
Is there a motion to approve the October 5th, 2023 salary board presentation as given by Chief Human Resources Officer Catherine Halen and to authorize the proper county officials to execute the same?
So moved.
Moved by Controller Sanchez. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Winder. Is there any board comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. Are there any negative votes? Motion passes. Thank you. And we have a retiree acknowledgement. Chief Catherine Zalenski.
Good morning, Commissioners and members of the Salary Board. Thank you for this opportunity to recognize Juvenile Probation Officer Kenneth "Ken" Jones. Ken was born in Norristown, Pennsylvania, raised in Penland, attended and graduated from Wissahickon High School. He attended and graduated Indiana University of Pennsylvania on May 15, 1992, with a Bachelor of Science degree in business and a concentration in hospitality and institutional management. After graduation, Ken served as an assistant manager for Best Western Hotels in Montgomeryville, PA, from 1992 to 1993. Ken began his career with the Montgomery County Probation Department in 1994 when he was hired as a child care counselor supervisor for the Montgomery County Youth Center. Some notable accomplishments while he was employed there are in 1998, he was the recipient of the Juvenile Detention Centers Association of America Counselor of the Year. Also in the same year, he was the Montgomery County Youth Center Counselor of the Year. And in 1999, he received a commendation from the Montgomery County Commissioners. In 1999, Ken was transferred and appointed as a juvenile probation officer for the Montgomery County Juvenile Probation Department, where he was assigned to our Eastern Unit. On April 27, 2017, Ken was promoted to the position of Juvenile Probation Officer 2, where he has remained and currently was assigned to the Eastern Unit. On September 24, 2023, Ken submitted his retirement notice with an effective date of October 3, 2023. We at the Juvenile Probation Department and Supervision Services congratulate Ken on his retirement and wish him a happy, healthy, and relaxing next chapter in life. Thank you.
Zalenski, thank you for coming and speaking on behalf of Mr. Jones, and I certainly want to extend my congratulations to him and wish him the best in his retirement as well. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn the October 5th, 2023 meeting of the Montgomery County Salary Board?
So moved.
Moved by Controller Sanchez. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Winder. Any board comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. Are there any negative votes? Meeting adjourned. Go Phillies, Controller Sanchez. I see. I see what you're doing.
Is that a button? Is that a pin you have?
No, that's for my flu shot. That's for my flu shot. So,
It was red, I thought.
all right, you can go. Yeah. Yeah, you're off.
See you in a little while.
Okay. He's coming. He's coming. Yes. All right, that's fine. All right. Okay, I am going to call to order the October 5th, 2023 meeting of the Montgomery County Election Board, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, starting with opening comments, Judge Clifford is in court, so we're going to proceed without him today, and welcome Commissioner Gale back to the election board. And we'll start with public comment.
I have an objection, Sunshine Act objection. Is Giuseppe Crini Monticelli, Springfield and Conshohocken, is there even a quorum? Is this a quorum without having Judge Clifford? There's a quorum. Thank you.
First up for public comment is Giuseppe Crini Monticelli.
Giuseppe Crini Monticelli, Springfield and Conshohocken. So Act 77, that's always what you point to for these mail-in ballots and the ballot boxes and everything. There's actually 2 counties in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that actually don't go ahead and have these ballot boxes. You can have sheriffs standing outside of these ballot boxes or what you want, but as I heard last year with last year's election board meetings, there was a few people that managed to get in ballots, and you guys had to make the decision, well, do we go ahead and not count all the ballots that were in that ballot drop box, or do we go ahead and count all of them? You got to continue to have issues like that. Also, what preventive measures are you doing to stop people from ballot harvesting, from taking multiple, maybe it's a husband who innocently doesn't know that he can't take his wife's ballot with his and go to, let's say, the Norristown post office and drop it off. Maybe he doesn't know. So you guys need to really make sure it's apparent to people that even if you're husband and wife, unless you have that certification, what you're talking about, where you can collect people's ballots, you're committing an offense. So that needs to be more communicated with members of the community, with citizens, that you cannot even take a member of your household's ballot and drop it off at the post office. You only can take your own. That's not well communicated, and we need to end all these drop mail-in boxes. You're just setting up a situation here where there is going to be fraud. You can refer as much charge as you want to the DA's office, but in a perfect world, no, it's not going to happen. A perfect world's not going to happen, and you're not going to get criminal charges, because look at the COVID backlog you have over there with the courts. You aren't going to have it. So I wanted to talk about that primarily, and I want to talk about how we can go ahead and really secure our elections a lot better. And, you know, I want to leave here lastly that you guys need to clean up the voter rolls. There is a lot of shenanigans. That's all I'm going to say with that. But your voter rolls are not clean. You have people that don't live here anymore still in the voter rolls.
Next up is Pauline Bracchio.
Pauline Bracchio, Dennison Township. I want to actually continue with the voter rolls. They are not clean. I have looked at them, and I know for a fact that there are many, many people listed on those voter rolls that do not belong on them anymore. They're people who have moved away, but they're still there. So that leaves it open for somebody else who is not that person to use that person's name and vote. So we really do need to clean that up. We already know that, you know, you guys don't care about fraud, you want the fraud. You're the Democrats. So, but, you know, if you were honest and an upstanding person, then you would want to clean up the voter rolls. Thank you.
That is all for public comment.
Okay. I am going to table the next two agenda items as Commissioner Gale wasn't a member of the board for the June 5th meetings and the reorganization until we have a full allotment. So we move on to agenda item G, authorization of changes to polling locations. Ms. Sawyer.
Good morning. I'd like to request authorization for the relocation of a few polling locations for the 2023 general election to take place on November 7th. The Board of Elections is given the authority by the Election Code to relocate polling places as they see fit, and today I'm seeking approval from the board to relocate 2 polling places. These locations are listed in the agenda attachment titled October 5th, 2023, Polling Place Relocations. We originally advertised an additional polling location move for Bridgeport 3, but would like more time to review the proposal before bringing it to the board. The 2 polling locations that we would like to request authorization to relocate are Cheltenham 5-1 from St. John's Lutheran Church back to Gratz College, located at 7605 Old York Road in Melrose Park, Pennsylvania. We are requesting that move based on feedback from the community and committee people. Satterton 3, currently voting at Zwingli UCC, moving back to the Satterton Mennonite community, located at 105 West Chestnut Street in Satterton, PA, and that was also brought to us by members of the community. Notice has been posted at these locations that the polls are being moved as required by law, and the locations have all been notified of the move. We have also notified representatives from the Republican and Democratic committees regarding the moves. And in addition to notice being posted, every voter in these precincts will be mailed a new voter ID card indicating the location change and identifying their new polling location. If approved, we can have these queued up to be mailed as early as Monday, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have and request that the board approve these relocations as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the relocation of the 2 polling places named on the attached document titled October 5th, 2023 Polling Place Relocations, beginning with the November 7th, 2023 general election and continuing for all elections going forward. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Gale. Is there any board comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. Are there any negative votes? Motion passes. Appointment of delivery support personnel for the 2023 election cycle.
The code gives the board the authority to delegate their responsibilities to representatives authorized to act on the board's behalf. You have been provided a document titled 2023 Election Cycle Delivery Support Personnel, and I am requesting that the board vote to approve the people named on this list to serve as delivery personnel for election-related materials for the 2023 general election.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to appoint the individuals so named in the attached document 2023 Election Cycle Delivery Support Personnel to assist in the delivery of election materials to election officials. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Second by Commissioner Gale. Any board comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. Are there any negative votes? Motion passes. I will make a motion to adjourn the October 5th, 2023 meeting of the Montgomery County Election Board. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gale. Any board comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. Are there any negative votes? Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Sawyer?